Well, good evening, everybody, and good evening, Mr. Erekose. How are you this evening?
You gotta change it to where we're both on screen, dude.
We're not both on screen, are we not?
No.
Oh, you want to be on screen as well, do you? Okay, then. There you go, pal.
All right, hey, there I am. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, just give them a few minutes to join in, and we'll get. Listen, I enjoyed the chat with you. Just over an hour ago. It's great to see Jenny Holtzclaw, Daniel's sister. She's been a huge supporter of Daniel, hasn't she? You know, she's been, making herself the sort of public voice of Daniel. I have huge respect of her. In effect, the complete opposite that I do for somebody called Mike Holbach.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's. I was gonna start off by saying that I've put this as truther news, and we're truthers, okay? What does that mean as far as you're concerned? What does it mean to be a truther?
I don't know. I didn't coin that term, but I accept it to mean that it's people looking for truth and using the truth to make their arguments as opposed to emotion. But
is it? I suppose yes, we want the truth, but is it also an acceptance that in order to find the truth, what we are doing is we are arguing: was the truth found the first time out by the court? Was the jury correct in their decisions? Were the people that we are in effect advocating for? And I mean, our advocacy for wrongfully convicted people, it spreads wider and wider, and the type of people that we're advocating for spreads wider and wider. We're advocating on the one hand a scrap man, Stephen Avery in Manitowoc. At the same time, we're advocating for truth and justice for a police officer in Oklahoma City.
Right, absolutely. But it goes to show that the wrongful conviction scope, it goes both ways. I mean, they'll do it to their own. It just depends if the motive's there.
Yeah, if it suits them, when it suits them. Yeah, you have a. Oh, I thought you were going to get the McAllen. I got the Singleton. Honestly, you want to try this Singleton? It's good stuff. The McAllen is very smooth, but this Singleton is also very, very, very smooth.
I saw you swigging that all through the live.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, Mr. Hoddenot. What's up, buddy?
I don't think anybody heard that because you were making too much noise, crushing your.
Yeah. What's up, Mark? How's it going, buddy?
So anyway,
that way the trash can doesn't fill up as quickly.
Yes. Okay. I've got another question then, and that is, if we're truthers, what's the opposite of a truther?
Well, in the MAM world, it's a guilter.
Yeah, it's and in the Daniel Holtzclaw case, they were calling them the trolls, and there's various names we can go for them, such as haters.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd make the argument that there's a lot of people out there that probably believe Daniel was guilty, but they weren't trolls. It's only the really, really, very worst, of the people that, and often they aren't even well versed in the facts. But they have the loudest mouths, about things. You know what I mean? And those people are trolls. They fit that terminology. Then there's going to be some people out there who I've only met one of so far. One came on my live just the other day, or my premiere just the other day. But reasonable people who believe Daniel's guilty, but are reasonable people who are willing to discuss reasonably. Those I've only met one of those yet. So.
What about in Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey case?
I've met a few. Namely, the biggest one would probably be Falcon.
I was going to say he at least was reasonable enough to actually come on the channel and talk about it. But there's been others who have just refused to accept any invitation to come and talk about it from, if you like, the guilty point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still get them that come forward, and I suppose from my point of view, what I would say is this: that when it comes to everything we say is our opinion, but when it comes to our opinion, I'm quite happy to listen to your opinion because I've met you. I know what you're like. I realize you go under the name of Erekose, but I've got a certain amount of trust in you that you're not you're supporting Stephen Brendan not through some malicious ideological reason. You're doing it simply because it's something that's fired you up, that's made you look at this and go, hold on a sec, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, there's clearly
in the same way that the Daniel cases.
Right, there's clearly something wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Daniel Holtzclaw is going to be another textbook example of just how investigators get on the wrong track and they just keep on that track. Even though there's plenty of suggestion they're on the wrong track, they just keep plowing forward. We see it in the Avery Dassey case, whether, I can understand how they might have thought at first, Avery was the last place we went. There's a RAV4 here. I can understand how they might have just like easily thought, it must be Avery. But at some point they had to be going, but wait, this is weird. Why is this way? Why is that way? At some point they should have been going, this is strange, and tried to maybe, figure out if they're on the right course or course correct, but they never did that. And that's why the Avery investigation continued to stay off the rails. Mm-hmm. And not all of them are faceless.
Majority of them are. I've never met just stating the lies and Pecker Woody Pecker Woody, whatever her name is. And there was another woman that if you remember, I this Tess Sanders, who was threatening legal action, and I was terrified, that she was going to send some FBI over to Gala Shields to apprehend me, and bring me back because she was threatening legal action because I'd mentioned her name in something,
mm-hmm.
when she'd actually posted her name.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But I mean, when I heard Michelle Malkin, quoting some of the stuff that the haters in the Daniel case were saying, it did remind me of some of the haters and the guilters that we've come across. It's and I can only. I think it's designed to try and knock us off the from being so offensive to us that it's trying to provoke a response, and that we're going to retaliate in some way in a most inappropriate way.
Right.
And it must really annoy them that we don't, because we just realize the fact that a lot of them are just trying to be provocative.
Yeah.
They're not coming up with anything at all. They're just repeating the same old rubbish over and over again. I've got the Woody Woodpecker, Woody Pecker, Woody, keeping on saying, well, so who do you think, who are you going to accuse this week? Who and I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know who's responsible. What did you think of Zellner's latest reply? Wasn't it? It was reply to the state's response.
It was brilliant. I mean,
yeah,
she's taking it to them. I mean, she's throwing their own words in their face. Is essentially through a lot of that reply, just throwing their own words in their face, and for me, that's as powerful as it's going to get, because obviously the courts are inclined to, disregard defendants. They just are. That's what they do. That's why we have all these things like procedural bars and all that BS. But I mean, it's they're allowing this stuff to happen. It's gotta, it's just it needs to be addressed. I mean, we can't allow the courts to continue to allow things to run the way they are. What jumps to mind to me is things like in closing arguments, it can't be allowed for prosecutors to lie to the jury. Just in the final thing that the jury is going to hear just before they go into deliberations, that can't be allowed. But yet I've seen it now in multiple cases. Mm-hmm. We see it with Brendan, obviously, with Fallon saying that innocent people don't confess, which is a full-on lie. Well, we see it at the Daniel Holtzclaw trial where the prosecutor claims that the DNA found in the case was of a certain bodily fluid type and all this specific things that he claims about the DNA when it was none of those things. He's just able to tell that lie to the jury right before they go into deliberations, and the judge doesn't call him on it. Mm-hmm. It didn't fit the testimony in court, mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's bizarre, but this stuff is allowed to happen. All these things are allowed to happen, and the courts, need to start taking more seriously, the claims of defendants, because there is wrongful convictions out there. Yeah, and some guys are claiming they're wrongfully convicted and they actually did it, but some guys are wrongfully convicted and they're actually innocent. And it seems like our courts are afraid to look at that and consider that possibility, and that's why there's things like procedural bars.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to first of all, obviously, as you were saying with Brendan and Tom Fallon, what Fallon said in closing arguments was pretty despicable. And what happened next in Brendan's case, of course, was that he was found guilty, obviously, and then the appeal started. That's when Drizzen and Nyrider came in. And they were actually successful in front of Judge Duffin. Now, one of the people that gave an affidavit, because Brendan was found guilty purely on a quote unquote confession, mm-hmm. And one of the affidavits in that appeals was from Dr. Richard Leo, mm-hmm. And I believe you've got him on your channel next weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting. And shall I tell everybody what time that's going to be on?
You should go ahead and announce it.
Yeah.
Sorry about it. You don't have to act like it was my fault either.
So yeah, just to reconfirm, Dr. Richard Leo has agreed to join us on the the 4th of July. Now, apparently that's a celebrated date over there in America. I've no idea why, but apparently it's some famous date, and maybe you can explain why. But it's going to be at 4:00 Pacific time. So he lives very near Crunch Island, so 4:00 his time, which will be 6:00.
Because of the 4th of July coming up, Captain Crunch has gone back to Crunch Island. But anyways.
Yeah, when it came to the Daniel, when it comes to Daniel's case, it just beggars belief. I've watched it twice now. The Michelle Markin. Last night we were watching it with. I was watching it with Eunice because we just finished watching the latest from Netflix, which is Athlete A.
I've seen that.
Which was the cover-up of the Larry Nassar case, And there you had a load of people coming forward who had genuine, hundreds of them, but it was genuine. There was all this
corroborating evidence.
Yeah, but it was all covered up. It was all sort of being hushed. Mm-hmm. And the way the Oklahoma City Police Department, they particularly the guy Chitty or however you pronounce his name, to sack the guy, was it 10 months before it went to trial?
Yeah,
it's like that. That presumption of innocence has been completely eroded.
We're gone. Yeah, I wouldn't even say eroded. It disappears so quickly. It seems like eroded would be the wrong word. But yeah, it seems like it's like lopped off with a big axe or something. But anyway.
Yeah, and it was just so strange that, why do that to one of your own?
Because of the mounting pressure.
Yeah.
Because Janie Liggins had gone in the media. She hadn't said who. She didn't say any names, but she basically said an Oklahoma PD officer had done this and that and whatever to her, and without any substantiation. And that alone started the outrage. And so OKCPD realized they were soon going to be having a bunch of demonstrators and protesters and everything and whatever, and it was going to become a real, huge deal. And I think this was their attempt to try to minimize it.
Anyway,
the way it would appear, anyway. But I don't know that for sure. But
yeah. When did you do your first video about Daniel Holtzclaw? Would it have been about a week ago?
Oh, it would have been about 2 weeks ago, probably.
Was it? All right.
First one I did is I read the article that Brian Bates writes for the Daniel Holtzclaw site. And it's basically him just doing a brief kind of just summing up of what went on in Daniel's case. So I did a video reading that, talking about Stephen and Brendan and some of the similar aspects I saw between Daniel and Stephen's and Brendan's cases and everything, and went through that one.
Yeah.
And that was about 2 weeks ago, like I say. Then I went into Daniel's interrogation, where we learn about Janie Liggins. So if you go to Daniel's interrogation, you're going to learn about the first accuser, Janie Liggins. Then after that, I moved on to Terry Morris, who was the next accuser. Terry Morris, and we go all through her allegations. Then moved into Sherry Ellis, who is the next accuser, and we went all through her allegations. And there's problems with all of these, by the way, folks. And then now I've just finished up reviewing Florine Mathis and Tabitha Barnes, who I basically grouped together because they're both friends who hang out at the same crack house, who were basically fabricating charges against Daniel. And it's pretty freaking obvious that that's what they were doing. The investigators were clearly ignoring it, among other things, like the fact that a registered sexual offender, what's it called? What do they call it? Anyway, sex offender, was staying at the house, and there were young children at the house, and so there's a whole bunch of things. But the investigators were leaving out the fact that a sexual predator was living at the house. They didn't want to make any mention of that. They even actually tried to act like Tabitha didn't do drugs. Almost, it almost seems like they were basically trying to downplay any of her drug use. When you see so much work and when you see so much conscious effort by investigators in the state here in what they were doing and helping to shape these narratives, it's shocking. But you see it happening from the word go. They have a flawed accusation with Janie Liggins, but they don't care. They move forward to Terry Morris, again flawed, where they actually have to have her move the time and date, or the time and the place that the so-called assault took place. That's what Terry Morris, huge change in where it all took place and when. And then we moved to, with her also saying that her attacker was a black officer with a black and white patrol vehicle. Daniel drove an all black patrol vehicle. We move into Sherry Ellis, same claims, a black officer, a short black officer that she said had raped her. And none of this. They just skipped right past these things and acted like it was Daniel anyway. And they just kept piling on these extremely flawed accusers, and they just kept piling them on and acting like all the pieces fit. I'm reminded of that song by Stacy.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we've been joined this evening by Andrew. So great to see you, Andrew. Looking forward to Andrew doing some more videos. He was a huge part of the recent Mammothon, which was that was a huge success. As was, of course, the virtual online rally. Was that last weekend or No, it was just last weekend.
Yeah.
That was just a week ago.
Yeah.
My goodness, how time flies.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just interesting about the, as I say, I'd seen the name Daniel Holtzclaw because he was being tagged, if that's the right word, or hashtagged in some of Kathleen Zellner's tweets.
She was representing him in a civil case, I think, temporary for a short time, but then I guess they made a change. But yeah.
But I mean, again, Kathleen Zellner. I mean, she only does it for the fame and the money, doesn't she? You know.
Well, some say.
Has anybody heard from Roll lately? I haven't. I invited him to join us for the rally, but I think he's too busy with other stuff. So
he's very interested in the COVID-19 pandemic, and so we probably won't be getting him back into MAM until he's done with the pandemic. That's my guess.
Yeah, and Andrew, just when you're ready to give us some more insight, the sooner the better, and hopefully your wife and son soon be feeling much better.
Yep.
And so,
looking forward to seeing you back, Andrew. No worries, man. Take care of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting on to Kathleen Zellner. So brilliant response. I want to share with you what Jerry Buting tweeted. I'm sure everybody's seen this, but just in case you haven't, here we go.
Uh-oh. I think he locked up his computer when he tried to screen share, folks. That's hilarious. All right, so now he's going to have to reboot. So it's going to be a couple minutes, folks, before we hear from Paul again. I've had that happen to me once, where sometimes apparently StreamYards doesn't like Google Chrome or some other, or apparently I guess a couple other web browsers, and I guess this will sometimes happen. So we'll just have to wait for Mr. Capaldi to get reset here. You don't see anything? You don't even see me? I see me on YouTube here. So. All right, you see me? Yeah. So, hold on. Paul will get rebooted here. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Is his computer locked up when he tried to do the screen share? So we'll just have to wait for him to get back in here. Looks like he just removed his old one, or he just shut down the computer. So now he's trying to boot it back up, most likely. So, all right, as Paul works out the technical difficulties on his end, the computer's booting up right now. Probably the disk is whirring up, Yeah. So, hey, but Zellner's reply was pretty brilliant. I mean, I did 2 videos about it alone. For those of you who haven't gone and checked them out, you can. For me, the thing I'm most excited about in Zellner's reply is the judicial estoppel. For me, that's going to be awesome if the judicial estoppel prevents the state from arguing procedural bar. That's going to be pretty fantastic. When Stephen and Brendan get out, I assume they will have to reopen the case. There he is.
Typical, isn't it, eh? I do apologize. Do you know what it was? I think I left too much music on because I do some online teaching, and I had music that hadn't been saved, and so it kind of jammed on me. So let me see if I can find the tweet by Jerry. Just one moment. I do apologize for that. It's just unfortunate. It is what it is. This is how the internet works sometimes, or should I say, my computer sometimes works. But I mean, even yourself, you've had problem. You had a dropout earlier tonight, didn't you? It's just.
Yep.
It's just part of the
Holtzclaw came on. Fortunately, they at least got to say hi to her.
Exactly.
Before it dropped out, yeah, and then I ended up missing the first probably a minute and a half or so with Jenny, which was a bummer. But yeah. I don't know that happened to me twice today. It happened to me at the end of my premiere, and then it happened to me at the beginning of that live, and I was just like, "What the hell?" It hasn't happened since. But
yeah,
weird.
So I was going to see if I can find this one. Here we go.
Oh well, they're trying to say that they never said it was shot through her head, but there's testimony to the other.
It's completely irrelevant what Ken Kratz says that he said. It's what his expert Dr. Jensen said.
Right.
And it's also it's important to remember it's the fact that they never at any other time during the trial did they present evidence or try and claim that she'd been shot anywhere else.
Right.
It's just we're talking about this procedurally barred because you're changing your story. Well, that's exactly what the state is. They can't keep changing the story. Apparently they can if it goes to a new trial, they can come up with a different story, but I can't see it ever going to a new trial, not with the amount of evidence that's been proven to be false.
Right.
But anyway, let's see if this will work. This tweet by
looks like he's got a couple of them there.
What?
Jerry's got two tweets about the reply brief.
Who else? Jerry.
Yes.
Yeah. This was one that here we go. Here's one that I did notice. I'll let you do the honors.
Oh, okay. Reply brief of Zellner law has been filed. Responds well to the state's claims that material facts are unproven. That's precisely why an evidentiary hearing must be held. Court of Appeals likely to order a full hearing with testimony from witnesses and new judge. Oh, so he thinks there'll be a new judge.
Yep. So what do you think about that then, Mr. Dude?
I'm happy that he thinks that that's where this is headed, because he's somebody that works in that arena. And so the fact that he thinks it's headed that way is promising.
Well, yes. I mean, he's Wisconsin. That's he's got a bit of an insight there. He knows
how they he knows how the dog and pony show work there. So
yeah, I also had lined up for you, and this is going to be great. Apparently, one item of evidence that needs to be looked at is A23.
Yeah. And
for a lot of us in the UK, A23 is simply the main road from London to Brighton. So I was gonna bring up Wikipedia A23, the fact that it's a Roman road. You can tell by its straightness. But in actual fact, the Reddit that I'd got lined up was from Magilla about A23, that Sherry Culhane developed a partial profile for A23, but then never went any further.
But she did say at trial it didn't match Stephen Avery.
Yes.
And it didn't match Brendan.
Whereas Ken Kratz, during trial, says, "Oh, we've got Stephen Avery's handprint on the Stephen Avery's blood on the back of our foot."
PowerPoint presentation prior to opening arguments or whatever, or during his opening argument.
Yeah.
he had a picture of the back of the RAV4, arrow pointing to where A23 was, and then at the end of the arrow it said defendant's blood found on the rear tailgate or whatever. Jerry immediately saw that and went, wait, I haven't heard anything about that, and looked into it, ended up calling, or Wally had Sherry Culhane on the stand, had it clarified that that wasn't Stephen's blood. In fact, it was a partial profile, but she could rule Stephen out.
Yeah.
And Jerry had that called out in court, and actually called Kratz out for saying that, or having that during his opening argument. So yeah, it was funny. But
yeah. So as I say, I kind of spoilt that by my internet collapsing, because I would have loved you to read out about the A23 running from London to Brighton. But anyway, what do you think would be now? And again, this is I'm asking your opinion because I respect your opinion, as you know, because you're a truther like me. We've met one another. We've discussed things. I've met you in person. You might go under the name of Erekose, but I know that your real name is what it is.
You said it during our live earlier, actually. But anyway,
sorry, you what?
You said it during our live earlier.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, okay, everybody. His real name is Erekose, but I mean,
Rosie, yeah,
it's on his what is it, that the Costco card that you use to get all your Dr. Pepper from?
It's like my Dr. Pepper shirt, Rosie.
Yes. What seriously though? What do you think the pressure, or how do you think the pressure is going to manifest now on Bobby Dassey, who seems to be the one that's, well, let's put it this way. For me, him and Mike Holbach are the two that are, okay, let's add Ryan Hilligan.
Bobby Dassey is at the heart of AZ's current argument. So yes, he is in for a turbulent ride. Yeah.
And how do you think that will manifest itself? Will he, I mean, for example, would it be a case at the moment that the state are nipping in his ear from various? You just hold firm on this,
That could be. I don't have proof of that, but that could be.
No, we don't have proof of it, but I would. I mean, the fact that Dieter, when it interviewed him, when was it? 2017, when Queso opened up the investigation again.
Let's see. I think, yeah, because it was. I mean, after the petition was filed. Sorry. So yeah, it was at the end of 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, and you made an interesting point back then, which I still keep in the back of the mind, and that is that if there was stuff on the computer that was illegal, I mean some of the stuff is vulgar and obscene, but not necessarily illegal. But there might be stuff on there that's illegal, which would have freaked him out when Kathleen Zellner's investigator.
I mean, virtually the only thing that you're going to get that's illegal is if he literally had pictures of children, naked children, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Child pornography is no joke. Just the possession of it on your computer is enough to have you thrown away for a very long time.
And even just searching for that stuff.
Now, searching for it, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
You have to have actually downloaded content to your computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but you made an interesting point, and that is that the in effect the statute of limitations on that, based on the fact that he was that obviously the computer was analyzed back in 05, 06, 07. Right. Whatever statute of limitations.
It's not murder, so yeah, the statute of limitations would likely be expired.
But then by Queso reinvestigating, does that reset the statute of limitations? That's an
interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say. I mean, no one qualified to answer it, I guess, is what I'm getting.
Sure. As I say, I mean, look, we're merely here to discuss the case and to give our sort of, if you like, our opinions or our hunches, if you like,
I like that shirt, by the way, dude. Are you on your way to Margaritaville?
Yeah. This is.
I wish I was headed for a margarita right now.
As you know, the problem is that with daughters, that the one thing they like to do is try and embarrass dad by buying the most garish shirt they possibly can. So the one with the pink flamingos is in the wash, and the one with the big flowers got thrown out because I worn it so much because I absolutely love it. The fact that the girls think they're gonna,
those are Jimmy Buffett shirts, dude. Kidding me?
Yeah,
the Margaritaville shirts. Yeah.
It's as I say, it's Singleton, and it's
you gotta know how to. You just gotta know how to rock it.
It's just bad boy stuff at the moment. This is the
King Goblin, eh?
Yeah.
It's like the Stone Brewery. They like the gargoyles. I don't know why everybody's trying to associate that stuff with beer, but
from the Witchwood Brewery, it's Imperial
marketing.
Imperial beer, and it's
6.6.
6.6 is good stuff.
Yeah,
it's mixed. I mean, it just goes down very nicely with the Singleton. There was oh yes, that was it. Yeah, the getting back to the Daniel case.
Yeah.
I found it quite incredible. Am I right in this? In that this guy, the two investigators, Rocky Gregory. Do we know what his first name is? Is that his first name?
Rocky. Yeah. Rocky's his first name. Gregory is his last name.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What's his?
Like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, but that's like a stage name, isn't it, for a fighter? That's like a
kid.
Anyway.
Parents have named their kids Rocky.
Okay.
Particularly in the South.
Okay. And the other woman is somebody. Is it Davis?
Kim Davis.
Kim Davis.
Yeah.
Now, why am I not liking that name? Kim reminds me of Kim Worthy.
Reminding you, yes.
And Davis. Oh,
I initially had
Davis.
the same problem every time I read her name. I was thinking of Kim Worthy. So.
Yeah.
But they have about the same ethics.
Yeah. True. I mean, as I say, I was putting that question out. Do you think it's a case of it was just them that decided they would look into this? They were given the job of looking into this accusation, and they decided by themselves that they would take Daniel Holtzclaw down for this, or do you think it came from higher up the food chain?
There's a quote where we know that Kim Davis was told, the eyes of the department are upon you, which is again what suggests that the department was looking to damage control a bad situation, and so Daniel was the scapegoat.
Mm-hmm. But forgive me if I got this wrong, but it came across that there were times when they were going and interviewing people who had got all these warrants against them. Is that right? That they had got all this stuff that they needed to be arrested for, and yet they were quite happy to just go along and take their sort of interview with them without even batting an eyelid about the fact that they were,
they were ignoring, obviously, yes. They were ignoring the fact that Tabitha Barnes was quite obviously high when they were talking to her. And the fact that she was with her kids. I mean, they were quite obviously ignoring these things. Like I said, Rocky Gregory ignores the fact that there's a registered sex offender there at the house. He doesn't mention that, not even once. All the things that you look at them leaving out and all that sort of stuff, it tells you that they had fixed their mind in a certain way and there was nothing going to change it.
So some sort of tunnel vision?
Yeah. And like I said, I believe this all comes down from the fact that the department wanted to avoid, some of the fallout after Janie Liggins went on the news and claimed to have been raped by an Oklahoma City Police Department officer. Now, once she does that, now you got other groups out there who think that Oklahoma City Police Department is victimizing African American women, and suddenly they mobilize and they're going to protest and they're going to make, Oklahoma City PD's life uncomfortable. So what does Oklahoma City PD do to try to counteract that? Well, they crucify Daniel Holtzclaw. For me, it's ridiculous. Janie Liggins, it's like I've said earlier, but Janie Liggins's accusations aren't all that solid. She makes a few different statements that are proven false. And for me, the one to point out is whether or not there was a body search, whether or not she was patted down. She claims Daniel asked her to put her hands on the hood so he could pat her down. Daniel says, that's what she says, but Daniel says he never patted her down. When you look, there are no handprints on the hood. There is no fingerprints from Janie Liggins on the hood. That is a false statement. Okay? And at the same time, it proves his statement to be true when he says that he didn't pat her down, because that's what the evidence supports. And on and on, and it goes through all the accusers the same way. It starts with Janie Liggins, but you get the same damn thing throughout all of the accusers. It's just piling on, even if the story doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. And whereabouts are we with obviously we know where we are with Stephen Rendon's case. We know that now that Kathleen Zellner has filed this response, we're just waiting now on presumably Judge Riley to make another decision at some point.
I'm not sure. I know that. Here's what I do know.
Well, he's the judge of District 2, isn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
Daniel does have an appeal that's being worked on and filed, or has been filed, or whatever, but it's on hold for whatever reason. And what's happening right now is the civil cases are starting to queue up and get ready to go into civil court. Now, these are the accusers, folks, looking to collect money for the supposed sexual abuse that they received at the hands of Daniel Holtzclaw, according to them. That's what's happening. But what the Daniel Holtzclaw camp is realizing right now is that once those court cases start, there's going to be discovery going on, and it's going to go both ways. And so they're going to most likely be able to dig up a few more gems for Daniel's defense in his upcoming motion. So there may be more things that can be gleaned from there. So
yeah, I was going to say that it's not a fact of because Daniel was found guilty, therefore all the women that he was found guilty on, they automatically receive compensation. They have to then file this civil suit through this. Is it somebody called not Trump but Crump?
I believe so.
Is their lawyer?
To make it understandable for people, you only have to think of OJ, right?
Yeah.
So OJ was found not guilty, but then the Goldmans went into civil court and won a settlement. They won a cash settlement. Now, I think OJ ended up playing games, and only part of that money ever made it. And then he declared bankruptcy. Then he went to prison. Then, you know what I mean? So I don't know how much of that the Goldmans ever got, but that's what happened in the OJ case, for those of you who might remember that.
Yeah. And so basically they've got to go into court, and all these people that are accusing, Daniel of having assaulted them, and therefore they need recompense for it. They're going to have to tell their stories all over again. But they're going to have a whole lot of questions being asked about the veracity of their initial.
Yes, I believe this time they're going to have a lawyer who's going to be dogged about pointing out the discrepancies in their stories.
Yeah.
So
obviously this is, as I was saying to Mitch, this is quite, particularly at the moment, quite sensitive stuff, isn't it, that we're dealing with because of the the fact that, if you've got these people coming forward saying that they were, abused.
Well, they weren't coming forward, though. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Detective Munsey created this list going through all the people that Daniel had contact with through his job. And he basically made a list of all of those people that if they were an African-American, female prostitute with history of drug convictions. And that was the profile. And so Detective Munsey went through all of Daniel's past contact with the police department and found all the women that met that criteria, and they went to the women and offered them the ability to basically started out the conversation like this. We have a tip that you were assaulted by an Oklahoma City Police Department officer. They don't have a tip, folks. A tip would be somebody calling in saying they suspect something happened or whatever. That would be a tip. It's not a tip when one of your biased investigators goes into Daniel's history and picks out all the women that meet a particular profile. That doesn't classify as a tip. That's not a tip. Anyways, all right. All right.
Yeah, there was a very interesting clip at the end of, I believe, there was a clip during Daniel in the Den where Brian Bates points out that he heard or he saw this bit, and he actually produced this bit in trial where this woman's going out and she's saying, is that good stuff? Can we get a conviction on that and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's DeChandre Levy. Yes.
It was really bizarre. And did she make it to trial? Oh, yeah. No, she was one that they then threw out.
No, she made it to trial.
Yeah.
And Brian Bates ended up finding that he ended up listening all the way to the end of her confession and found that bit all the way at the end when everybody thought the recording was off, when DeChandre Levy started saying, is this good evidence? And you hear Rocky say, well, you tell me. And she says, even if he didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
She says that. Even if he didn't do nothing. And so that's a huge problem. Huge red flag. Huge.
So will something like that make it into the civil case then? Is that what the
I believe? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure if DeChandre was one of the ones that held up. Only 8 held up in court. The jury threw out 5 of the accusers themselves.
But could a defense lawyer, or could a lawyer produce that and say that this is what we're up against?
Produce what?
That particular quote.
Oh,
from the investigators.
Well, yes, they could probably use it to inform the court about the kind of unethical behavior or the unethical practices of the investigators that might be admissible in that way. I would think, yeah. Not. Oh, Shardarion Hill.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so who ultimately would have been? Well, obviously taxpayers, but who is it that they're having the civil case against? Is it the Oklahoma City Police Department?
Well, it's probably naming the police department, the city itself, the county, the police chief, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. It's legal suits are going to name everybody and anybody, because in the end they want to be able to collect their money, and so they want to make sure they've named every possible party that could be seen as responsible, so that nobody can try to slip out because they didn't get named.
Right. Okay. So, now I do remember you explained this to me a while back, because I wondered why it was that somewhere like Manitowoc has both a police department and a sheriff department, and you did explain very well at the time, and I still remember you pointing out that some communities would have a police department that would deal with stuff just in the city.
Some cities choose to fund their own police department, right?
Yeah.
And cities that don't choose to fund their own police department generally fall to the jurisdiction of the sheriffs.
Yeah, but in a city like Oklahoma, it'll be just a police department. There won't be a sheriff's department within the city.
In the big city there, apparently they have a police department.
Yeah.
So
A bit like LAPD is.
Yes.
I mean, you've got the Los Angeles County. Is that right? Los
Right.
Angeles. There is a Los Angeles County, isn't there? It's
right.
It's a
But
huge county.
there are some little places in Los Angeles where they actually don't pay for their own police department, and so they are patrolled and taken care of by the sheriff's department.
Mm. Yes, it's going to be interesting how that particular case develops, because, as you say, when it comes to these people having to get up in a court of law, I think this fella Crump, he's going to have difficulty with this.
Well, of course,
the lawyer.
Of course, nobody's going to like the fact that we're digging into this and turning up embarrassing things. Of course, yeah, they're not going to like that.
Yeah. And finally, what are your thoughts on how obviously Steve's case will impact on Brendan?
Well,
I know that's a bit of a vague, open question.
If Zellner gets a new trial and proves Stephen Avery innocent, I would think it should have a huge impact on Brendan. However, the way that the courts work and their stupid, idiotic belief in this idea of finality, it may not be that easy. It might not work. It might not be that easy for Brendan. It may still be a fight. So we'll have to see. Things are changing.
Yeah,
a new generation of lawyers is going to be coming in soon, and those and there's going to be a new generation of judges that are coming in soon, and hopefully these younger judges and lawyers are going to be understanding all the things that we're all seeing here in the justice system, and hopefully as those who are open-minded and seeing the corruption and wanting to take care of it start to come into power, we may see something get done about it.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit more of a heads up. We talked just off air just earlier about the fact that Steve Drizzen has been quiet on Twitter, but he's now re-entered. So
yeah, I just noticed him.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
So no, yeah, I was wondering where he was, so I'm glad to see him back.
Well, I think at times he probably, like he said to me in an email, he said he just needs to take a wee break and just recharge the batteries, so to speak. Right. One of the ladies that I had on with me during the virtual rally last weekend, Tracy Bowman, she sent me a link about the fact that Governor Evers, I believe, is having another parole board hearing, to do with parole for, is it parole or is it pardons? The pardon, not parole board, the pardons board, Right. And they've got another 20. I think it's about 24 people that they've got lined up that are they're gonna look at, but
right.
I mean. Gut feeling. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think that the clemency is going to work for Brendan, or do you think it's going to be a case of Steve with Zellner? That is the route that's going to.
I don't know.
Get him out.
My honest answer to that is I don't know.
I know you don't know. I'm
torn. I don't know. I mean, either one of them. It's hard to say. I mean, it's almost. I'll tell you what. I'll flip a coin. You get what I'm
Listen. The last time you did that, it took me 13 questions to realize that the answer was Wisconsin.
Yeah, right. So, no, but I mean that should put it into perspective. It's hard to say either way. It could go either way. Yeah. Honestly.
Okay.
So
well, listen, buddy. It's been great chatting with you, and I look forward to. Next weekend, when we'll have a chat with Dr. Leo.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that. Huge supporter for Brendan, obviously. and advocate for Brendan. So I'm very excited to talk to Richard.
Well, Travis was saying that he was also involved in the West Memphis 3 case.
No, Travis. Travis was saying that about Brent Turvey.
Yes,
that's what Travis was saying. I don't know that he's. I mean, obviously, I guess it would make sense that Richard Leo was involved with the West Memphis 3 case, seeing as that's kind of what he does, kids and confessions, right? So, but.
Right. Yeah. You might be right there, but I mean,
Travis did specifically say yes. Brent Turvey was involved with West Memphis 3.
Yes.
I don't recall him saying about Richard Leo. So
yeah. But I mean, he's been involved in so many hundreds of cases.
Right. Oh, I'm sure there's a chance.
It wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, listen, dude. Cheers.
Yep. I got my Dr. Pepper, so here you
go. Cheers. And thank you everybody for tuning in. As per usual, if you haven't done so already, please hit the dudes subscribe. What have we got here?
Let's buy for me.
Oh, no, this is the one we want. Yes.
There we go. Captain Crunch as American as Apple Pie and Dr. Pepper. I know I've seen that one before.
Yeah. And please make donations too.
Dude, the Dr. Pepper fund. Hey, dude, somebody made a $2 donation yesterday on my live. So there you
go. How many Dr. Peppers will that buy you? I mean, you got a slab of
like a 2-liter bottle, you know.
A 2-liter bottle. It's like, oh, they're mean. I tell you, you want to get down to the Wiggly Piggly. They've got fantastic offers on Dr. Pepper.
Wiggly Piggly. All right.
Okay. Right, thanks everybody.
Alrighty, that's bye for me.
We'll see you later. Yeah, cheers, dude.
And that's bye for him. Bye, everybody.
Bye.